the Iron Fortress. For 1,000 years, it stood as the continent's strongest bulwark, a monument of black stone carved into the very cliffs. They said no army could ever breach its walls. No magic could ever bring it down. But on this day, the fortress trembled. Soldiers on the ramparts watched in silence as the horizon began to glow with an unnatural light, and a strange cold fog rose from the valley below. The fortress was on alert, but against what? No one truly knew. A shadow was gathering, and the strongest shield of the realm was about to be tested. Just as the tremors began, a small, battered group of warriors arrived at the gates. At their head was Eldric, his face etched with exhaustion and dread. He and his men were all that remained of the Eastern Vanguard, and they brought a warning of unspeakable horrors. Inside the torchlit war room, voices were raised in a heated debate. The fortress commander, a veteran of 100 battles, listened to Eldric's tale of an army born of shadow and mist. But doubt is a poison, and even here, in the face of imminent danger, the minds of leaders were clouded. They had never faced such a foe. They could not believe such a thing was possible. They didn't have to wait long for proof. As dusk fell, the fog arrived. It wasn't the gentle mist of the mountains. It was a tide, a living, breathing army. Silhouettes with glowing arcane symbols moved within it, flowing like a wave against the fortress walls. The alarm was sounded, siege horns echoing through the cold air. A storm of arrows rained down from the battlements, disappearing into the fog with no effect. Mages unleashed bolts of fire and lightning, illuminating the writhing shapes for a heartbeat before being swallowed by the darkness. The siege had begun. The battle was desperate from the start. The walls, which had withstood giants and dragons, shook as if struck by an earthquake. The fog creatures scaled the stone with impossible speed, their touch turning steel to rust and flesh to dust. Soldiers fell, their cries lost in the suffocating mist. Magical wards, woven by generations of sorcerers, flared and then fractured. On the front line, Eldric fought with a fury born of despair. The Sword of Night, his ancestral blade, was a beacon in the gloom. Its blue-black light burned with a cold fire, slicing through the shadow creatures and leaving trails of dissipating mist. Steel clashed with shadow, magic met an ancient, unknowable force. And the legendary sword burned brighter than ever before. But it wasn't enough. The fortress was being overwhelmed. Deep within the central keep, the commander made a terrible choice. He stood alone in a chamber of ancient power, its walls covered in glowing forbidden runes. He had sworn an oath to never use this magic, but to save his men, he would break any vow. Chanting the words of power, he unleashed a torrent of raw energy. A blinding explosion rocked the entire mountain, collapsing a huge section of the fortress walls and incinerating 1,000 shadow creatures in an instant. It was a sacrifice, buying a precious few moments for the survivors. The price was his own life, and the commander was consumed by the very power he had unleashed. With the fortress lost and the main gate overrun, survival became the only victory left. Eldric, his heart heavy with the commander's sacrifice, gathered the remaining soldiers. He led them down into the darkness, into the secret escape tunnels that ran deep beneath the mountain. Dust and falling stones rained down as the fortress crumbled above them. Even here, they were not safe. The fog creatures pursued them, their whispered hisses echoing through the tight corridors. The flight was a harrowing race through collapsing passages, a desperate scramble for a sliver of hope in a world plunged into darkness. The fall of the Iron Fortress was a wound felt across the entire realm. From the rubble, a single plume of black smoke rose into the sky, a funeral pyre for an age of security. The fog finally consumed what was left, turning the proud fortress into a ghostly, silent ruin. Messengers rode day and night, their horses lathered, carrying the devastating news to every kingdom, every city, every remote village. A wave of fear spread faster than any army. The first and greatest shield against the shadow had fallen, and nothing stood in its way. Thank you for watching this episode of the Kingdom of Ashes. If you want to see what happens next in Eldric's journey, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us create more of these epic stories for you. See you in the next episode.